Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Tuesday Talk Live by Place Borneo. My name is Mona Abdul Manap and I will be your host for today. We see a lot of familiar names. Thank you for joining us again. And for the new ones, the Tuesday Talk Live is a platform for us to share ideas, knowledge, information, experience, or anything. Especially in these unprecedented times, we need a lot of information, data, and insights for us to guide us in our recovery plan or in the new normal for business, as we say. Those on Zoom, you can ask your question. I see someone has already asked a question before we started anything. You can put your question on the Q&A. And for those on YouTube, you can also ask question directly on the YouTube chat, and we will be able to see it here as well. Someone will be able to put your question here on Zoom. Now, today's session is a very, very suitable session for the current situation. It's called Technology is the Future for Events. Everyone's talking about virtual events or hybrid event, webinars, web conferencing, you name it. So, but event technology is not just that. There's more to event technology. And the fact that it has been around for quite some time tells us that a lot of people has been using it. And it's very useful, not just for virtual platforms and web conferencing and stuff like that, but also to save cost, to aid you in your service delivery, and to make your operations much, much easier. And today we've got top technology companies with us, the big guns, I would say. And they'll be sharing with us how they see the current situation, what is their experience, and some advice they have for you guys out there. So the first speaker, we have Eric Schmidt, the co-founder and CEO of Event Bank, all the way from the USA. And I think later on, Eric, you might want to tell us what's happening on the streets in the USA. We don't know much what's happening there, but we see a lot of weird things on the news. Now, Event Bank is a cloud-based event and membership management software platform with offices in 10 countries and clients in 50 countries. It's very impressive. And later on, he'll share a bit about what he does and their experience now. The second speaker, we've got Melvin Ong, the co-founder and CEO of Karuna Sarawak. He is based right here in Kuching. He's also my ex-schoolmate in Green Road School. And Karuna Sarawak is an award-winning web and digital agency. And Melvin himself, he specializes in web technology, IoT application or Internet of Things, Facebook marketing, and Google Ads. The next one, we have Will Kataria, Director of Sales for Cven. For those of you who don't know Cven, they're a software as a service company, and they specialize in meetings, events, and hospitality management platforms, technologies. And Will oversees the Asia Pacific sales of their event management and mobile app solution. And last but not least, we've got beautiful Jenny Kek, Head of Sales and Marketing at Evenesis. They're based in KL, but they also have an office in Singapore and I think in Jakarta, Indonesia as well. And Evenesis is a cloud-based end-to-end event management system. Now, let's get the ball rolling. We'll start with Eric. Eric, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting us today. I apologize, I have not had a chance to attend your chats in the past, so this is my first time, but certainly look forward to a lively discussion today.
Yeah.
So I think you asked us to quickly introduce a little bit about ourselves and certainly about technology for the future. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes to go through that quickly, given obviously we want to jump into the discussion. But for those that don't know Event Bank, we are an all-in-one platform for both event organizers and corporates who are running events. Really all-in-one mobile app registration, websites, everything someone needs to organize an event. And then on the other side, we work with chambers of commerce and associations to provide not only the event, but also the membership, the CRM, and everything an organization needs to be able to run efficiently. So we work with different customers throughout the world. As you mentioned, we're in over 50 countries and work with some brands that I think people know from both around the region as well as in other regions around the world. So happy to launch actually last week our new webinar solution, which is really the engagement process to really how to get people more engaged through webinars. using and integrated with Zoom. What we're doing is really looking for people to be able to exchange business cards digitally, be able to have side conversations as they would like, but really to be able to duplicate and mirror some of the engagement that take place where we hoped we would be, certainly with offline events in an online world. So we're happy to launch that here soon in the month of May. May is a busy month for our team. We've been launching a bunch of new features. And then, of course, the biggest launch is actually our communities that we launched, to really be able to dovetail what organizations are doing from events. Most organizations are, always, people always ask, when's your next event? When's the next event? The communities really have to live beyond that. And so what we've launched, really out of the challenge of our customers, everybody working from home, was our communities product. And then for the groups that come into that, to really be able to live discussions, not only at an event, but in between events, and really curate content for the organizations as they need to be able to continue to make sure that we say, business never sleeps, a community should not be there. So again, digital business cards, being able to have direct messaging. These are some of the other things that we had a launch last week globally. We're happy to say that things are moving fast and moving forward for us to be able to work with our customers and their professional communities. Lastly, again, as we mentioned, we are around the world, and certainly with that, here in the US, but I spent 17 years in Asia, and now, as we have offices globally, we are happy to work with anybody in any market, and making sure that we solve their challenges as it comes to technology. Thanks again, and happy to join.
Thanks, Eric. And the next one, I would like to invite Melvin to share a bit. Melvin, are you on?
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I'm here. All right, so I'll just share a bit about our company first, and then I'll just share a bit on how the online is changing the way events industry is moving. Let me share my screen from my phone. One moment. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
No, we see your name.
So here's.
No, we don't see the screen though.
Okay, you don't see my.
I only see your name.
Okay, in that case, let me just use. Yeah, because I'm actually using my phone because my camera broke. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a bit tough when you're on the phone.
All right. Yeah, no worries. So maybe I'll just elaborate a little bit on, how the online events are actually working currently. I was doing a bit of research, and I found out that one of the biggest entertainment event that was held recently, the Lady Gaga One World Together at Home concert, which was actually a free event, managed to raise 127 million from corporate partnerships and philanthropists. So this online event actually garnered almost 4.9 million viewers on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So I can see that the online events revenue model will be actually shifting more towards like corporate sponsorships, advertisements, and because either lesser fees or free for the audience to gain. This online events is actually good for driving promotions for offline events as well. So if you go to like Lady Gaga's One World Together at Home website, you would see that they're actually using the online events to drive offline events. If you go under the rewards tab, you can actually use those points to redeem tickets to physical events. So anyway, online events has been around, especially for us techies. We've always attended Google I/O and Apple special events online. It's just that for the less tech people, they rarely attend these online events. So some of the online technology that we are actually experimenting with is actually video conferencing. So we have customers from Singapore as well as Malaysia who have actually asked us to create apps with web conferencing abilities. So the technology that we're using is actually a free Google tag called WebRTC. So we're actually embedding that into our apps. Then the other thing is VR 360 and augmented reality. So we have a company in Singapore that does a lot of physical trade shows. So what they wanted us to do is actually to virtualize the trade show, and they can actually have the visitor visit kiosk to kiosk and then interact with the booth attendant virtually via webcam, as well as to try out their products through an augmented reality shop. Yeah, so these are some of the interesting things that we foresee will take place in the next year or so. Um, in terms of security concerns about the event technology, yes, I mean, there has been a lot of debate on end-to-end encryption of events tech, especially for video conferencing. Zoom passwords were being circulated in the black market. Yes, so and conferences have been hacked. So so far in this entire world, as far as I know, initially Zoom was not end-to-end encrypted. So right now they are trying to build in some form of encryption. Um, but even Google Hangouts and even Microsoft Teams is actually not that secure. You see, so yeah, the only end-to-end encryption is actually for ISO for specialized softwares, especially those for doctors' consultation, for psychologists, etc., etc. How has the current situation shown us that event technology is not just a tool to enhance events, but also it contributes in cost efficiency, service delivery, engagement, and audience reach? Definitely, online events, you can reach a lot more people than physical events. Yeah, because people don't have to spend on lodging, transportation, and provision time. So every time you need to hop on an event, you can just turn on your computer or your phone. So I think that it's a real game changer. One person can attend 4 or 5 events in a day, via video conferencing or via online. Yeah, so that's basically all from me. If there's any questions.
Okay, we'll go on to the questions later on. Next up, we
Yeah.
have Will. Hold on, let me just spotlight the video. Yep. Will?
Okay.
Yep.
I hope everyone can hear me fine.
Yes. All good.
Well, hello. Good morning. Thank you for having me at the Tech Talk today. Really appreciate that. So to get started very quickly, Cvent, I'm not sure if you heard about us, but we are the world's largest events technology company. We are a good 4,000 people organization, and we've been here for 2 decades. But I think it's more about you than us today. So let me talk about a few things in terms of events and meetings, right? How can you still make it very relevant in today's day and age and be cost effective? First thing first, I think all of you in the meeting today, whether you're a corporate or an association, nonprofit, or you want to do fundraising, everybody's starving for leads, right? This is the new normal. So how you can manage your events and meetings is very critical. I mean, it's just that you're going to do it differently, not a live event, but online events can still add tremendous value. So we say that there are 3 type of events, and I'm sharing a screen right now. I hope it's visible.
Yes, it is.
That you can categorize events into 3 tiers. Tier 3, tier 1, tier 2. So tier 3 could be webinars. What we recommend is that, for example, the tech talk that we have in today, these events are relatively easier to put together. You still need a good event technology to help you drive leads, and it's the marketing channel for you to invite people, to register them, to pre-qualify them. So that could still will be very helpful, and you can use technologies, and it's very cost effective. Then the second thing is that you all might be thinking about that annual conference that you have planned for Q3 or Q4 of this year. What are you going to do about that, right? So for Q3 events, a lot of planners are pivoting towards online events already, like a virtual conference. So that's like a tier 2. You could do hybrid, or you could do a virtual conference. If you have something planned for Q4 later in the year, then you can surely plan about going hybrid, because most likely in a lot of countries, domestic travel could still open up. But then you still need to have like the online component over here. Now, virtual events are very powerful means for you to still generate leads for your organization. So you can still do a lot of things over here, like brand awareness, lead generation, accelerate your sales pipeline, because that's essentially what event stands for, and even drive revenue for your organizations. And when we look at use cases, these are some of the use cases that we can recommend to all of you. Again, small meetings, you can do webinars, which I would say is very easy, like I said, to put together. It doesn't need for you to boil the ocean. You can use technology like Zoom, WebEx, and there's a lot of web hosting softwares out there. But then event tech can still help you in driving marketing, engagement, leads, and pre-qualification and post-qualification of attendees. And then virtual conferences for meetings you have planned for Q3 and Q4. This is where you can do virtual events and go fully virtual. Now that's where you'll need more than just the web hosting solutions. And then of course, internal events or external hybrid events, that's what you can look at. Now very quickly, this is how virtual conference can look like. Cven can help you with like full project management. So you could create these beautiful virtual websites kind of templates where people can walk in, go into one, like if they want to go to the booth, if they want to meet an exhibitor. So these kind of websites are very possible. And then you can do lead generation as well for exhibitors. Some of the examples of the kind of virtual lobby and conference websites that customers have set up. And again, whether it's event or any other event tech, like I said, it is the backbone of your entire events program. Your registrations, your websites, your invitations, your lead management, that could all be done with a good event tech provider. And then this is also very simple and straightforward to use. So you can still have an entire automated process. It could be simple events, it could be virtual conferences, but then you can do full 360 event management. Um, that being said, one last thing I do want to share is that apps is also really important for engagement. So a lot of customers, we do recommend using apps as well, because one thing is getting people to a virtual event. The second thing is truly engaging them during that event. So there's a lot of technology out there as well that can help you engage people during that event and make sure they're able to consume the content and they're also able to network with your peers. So I'll stop sharing. That's a quick 5 minutes of fame for me, just to quickly walk you through about events tech and events program. Happy to do that Q&A later in the later half of the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Will. Next up, I'm going to invite Jenny to share her part. There you
Hi,
go, Jenny.
Mona.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to this panelist session. So it's really an honor to be able to speak alongside so many distinguished guests. And also, really good morning to everyone. Hope everyone had a really good weekend. So I'm just going to quickly share a very short slides as well to everyone. I hope everyone can see this right now.
Yep, I can see that.
All right. So same like everyone else, I'm sure that everyone knows that Evanesys is an event tech company. So we have also pivoted partially as well into virtual events. So I'm just going to quickly share a little bit about what we've ventured to very recently. So in Evanesys, we've currently actually started offering e-conference and e-exhibition services as well. So when what we have done and take it a step further is we've directly integrated our event registration system into the e-conference tool and also the e-exhibition tool. And this actually allows the online registration to continue as per the old days, which is people, just register and then they'll be able to attend. So it's a single sign-on option. So that one actually helps drive, I would say, registration and to improve event experience, which is what Evanesys have always been about, which is to basically bring the best event experience to every single attendee out there. So we've worked with partners for all of this, and it has worked quite well so far. And we are actually co-organizing and have already started co-organizing a series of webinars alongside some of the associations and organizations out there. And it has actually received quite an alarming and actually very interesting, I would say, number of attendees. People who we have never thought we've actually been able to reach now are able to join in the events too. So that is something quite interesting that we found out when we basically jumped on board and implemented the online e-conference and also e-exhibitions. So next thing is something that we're currently working on, which is hybrid events. So when we say hybrid events, it's actually something that we're currently still studying, and also it's actually a partially live and partially online version of the event, which means like because moving forward, we expect the number of people that is able to attend events will be significantly reduced. So what we see is possibly using the online solutions as an extension of the physical events, which would actually help drive more people to the event. At the same time, you would also have an option for a physical event. So that is something that we're currently working on, especially seeing that MCO will be lifted, hopefully later on this year. Okay, next, this is actually pretty much an extension of the hybrid event that we are currently working on, because once you have somebody or anybody going to anywhere physical, you will need to be, I would say, liable for their health, well-being, their safety. So by having all of these thermal camera options in place, this is actually to ensure the safety of our attendees moving forward. So all of these options are currently being put in place to anticipate the upcoming physical events that is going to come later this year. Okay, lastly, this is something quite interesting that we've currently as well worked with a partner with. It's actually a software where we can actually install into venues and also malls, locations, CCTV. So this actually helps detect the social distancing requirement. So this software actually allows us to tell the PIC, the person in charge, if anywhere along your location, your venue is too crowded. So if, let's say, anywhere in your venue, your space is currently overcrowded, a message is actually sent to the PIC's WhatsApp, and you'll receive the notification to get somebody there to basically disperse the crowd. So this actually helps venue spaces in the future to actually adhere to all the social distancing requirement moving forward. So this could actually play a really big part for a lot of venue spaces, be it venue spaces, event spaces, restaurants, malls. So this is actually a very useful tech to take note of. And it could really help, I would say, adhere to a lot of regulatory requirements moving forward. So these are some of the new things that Evanesys is currently offering, and we've basically launched all of this within weeks of jumping on since the MCO have started. So yeah, back to you, Mona.
All right, thank you, Jenny. I'll go back to all the speakers. If you could just unshare your screen, and I'll unmute everyone. We'll go into discussion. All right, so I'm just gonna, there's already one question, but we'll go to that question later on. But just one question, when everyone's here talking about virtual events, you know, you guys are going into e-conferencing, e-exhibitions, and everything is e nowadays. But is that really the case that everyone will be using technology for events in terms of virtual conferencing or virtual events? Is that gonna stay, or is that just because of this current situation? You know, how do you guys see that in future, or is it going to be really, really much reduced as to how it was before COVID? So what's your take on this? Eric, maybe you want to go first.
Sure. So in general, I mean, the key thing is, of course, we need to get everybody back out of their homes before we can even start discussing, you know, of course, in-person events. I think obviously at this point, as of, I think, I want to say next week, I believe Guangzhou, China has now started allowing people to start organizing events in person, expos, conferences, etc. So that's a huge jump. And of course, China took extreme measures to get things back on track compared to places here like the US, where you know, we're probably going to see multiple waves of virus increases and decreases until, you know, we can get under control. So, you know, in that situation, of course, you know, it's not going to change the need for virtual technology to enable events. But of course, you know, over time, you know, is it going to decrease complete down to zero? No, I don't think so. I think people have gotten used to the experience and actually enjoy the ability to be able to attend 4 events a day if they so choose, because they have the different topics and whatnot. Of course, when people, that's a little bit different of a challenge when the primary goal of an event is to be able to sell products or services, to be able difficult to network with people. That is a very different challenge. I don't think, and of course other people would say otherwise, but I don't think, if you look at, I don't think people have gotten to that same level that people want the experience to go to and so forth. I don't think it's that people's expectations yet. We're getting there as this innovation is taking place as we speak, to hopefully duplicate some of those tools that people really want and experiences that they want to have virtually. Is it going to go down to zero? No, I think it's going to be a hybrid mix between offline combined with the offline experiences that people want. Every organization had, in many cases, millions of dollars dedicated to different aspects of their marketing budget, whether they were offline events, online events. Certainly has opened up people's eyes to the possibilities, and certainly the reduced travel for many of the folks like myself who spent prior to this 70% of the time traveling to we're at 0% right now, but hopefully there'll be a better balance moving forward. And I think anybody in that situation probably would like to see a little bit more balance when it comes to that. But nothing to replace an in-person event. I don't think that will change, but I do think that it will be a balance between the two moving forward.
Yeah, I do agree with you, and I think people will want to meet each other. Networking is still a thing, and that's one of the biggest thing when you attend an event. It's not just the content, although that's one, but it's actually just to meet other business associates, other friends from other countries, and we'll go back to that. But I do agree with you that the hybrid event is probably going to stay. And to what degree, that's a thing that we don't know. It depends on the organizers. Melvin, you actually mentioned earlier that event technology or virtual events, although it may not stay 100% like what Eric mentioned, but it will actually give us an opportunity to expand our audience to people who before this couldn't attend our event. Maybe you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, the virtual event is an extension of the actual event. So number one, in terms of promoting the event itself, it's actually more effective because you can promote it through Facebook social media channels, which not a lot of event companies have done before that. Yeah, only the big ones will actually tag on social media marketing. And I think I think it was Will's earlier discussion on leads management. I think that's a very good point. Being an online event, you're able to generate leads from all segments instead of just the usual database that you have. Yeah, so there's actually more sharing in that virtual space. On the other hand, I think that in terms of paid events, virtual events would actually favor professional conferences, and these conferences can actually maintain their high ticket value. Whereas for entertainment events, I think that they would need to rely on more corporate partnerships and advertising, because in a virtual event, you can slot in advertisements. Yeah, and that airtime can actually be charged to your corporate sponsors. So I think that creating the virtual event will give a lot of events a new model to generate revenue instead of just charging for tickets. So in terms of ticketing technology, I think Evanescence has a good solution to kind of integrate it from the offline events to the online events. And I think that would move forward in the near future. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, thanks. Jenny, did you want to add on to that?
I think Melvin basically brought up some really good points in the sense where there are a lot of additional revenue streams available for organizers out there when you actually offer an online virtual event. So some of the examples that we've also done with the current series of webinar is during the conference, you can have call to action buttons that actually highlight your sponsors, your partners, to direct them to their websites, their promotions, what are they actually offering. And in fact, Personally, I think that if the partners and sponsors are really keen for leads and also sales, you can the speed of sales can also happen and occur a lot faster, because now you have video conferencing tools. You have a lot of options to actually share all of your products, your demos. There are a lot of ways that you can actually generate new leads online. So that is something that Melvin actually brought up a really good point on. So yeah, so I think that for virtual event, it is definitely a very great extension from our old physical events. So I think it is an absolutely thing here to stay. And yes, hybrid is definitely the way to go moving forward.
Yeah, I think I like what you mentioned about additional revenue streams. First, you have more people attending. You've got a wider set of audience from different countries who can save on travel, can save time attending even 4 events at the same time. You can have 4 windows open on your screen and just look at, of course, the engagement probably isn't there as much, but the fact that you're there and you're attending the event and they have your database, your name and emails, that works really well for sponsorship. Now, sponsorship is one of the toughest things for events, for conferences, for any events. And I think that could be something that organizers could look into when you talk about event technology, because this is one of the ways that you can convince sponsors that you have a captive audience in front of you, and you've got their database, and you can do your pop-ups and you can send them things. And if they're really watching, well, they can't avoid seeing your pop-up and stuff like that. I think I like that part, the additional revenue streams. Now we're talking about event technology.
I think one.
Yep.
Yeah, Mona, I think one thing that I left out earlier was that, in terms of what Jenny mentioned, that you can actually get a direct conversion to e-commerce sales as well. So let's say if, your event is specifically selling a type of product. So, customers, instead of, having to place an order and place a PO, they can just go to a website and then immediately just click and pay. So that actually speeds up the acquisition process as well. So I think this will be extremely powerful in the future. That's a very good point, Jenny.
Thanks, Melvin.
So that's more into e-commerce. That means whatever you're selling online, they can straight away click and buy on the spot if they wanted to. I think that's fantastic. Correct. That works really good for sponsors and even for your own products if you're doing a webinar to promote your products. Now we're talking about event technology, and we're moving a bit more into like webinars and e-conferencing and e-exhibition. But in your opinion, what are the event technology you think might be more popular in the near future or post-COVID, or maybe in the next 1 year or so? Any ideas on that, Jenny?
I think it is actually quite interesting that during this MCO period, right? Just like a lot of people, I think I actually miss talking to people physically. So moving forward, I think in terms of new technology coming in, it will be very interesting to see if any technology out there is actually able to take it like virtual event one step forward, where you are actually able to replicate physical events, physical meetings even more. The touch, the feel, all the sense is just not there, even though that is still missing. That is something that is currently still missing. But as we know, technology is moving super fast, so every single day. It would be really cool to actually see how technology can actually bring us there one day. But in the current near future, I would say that what would be popular is basically, I think the basic adoption of even e-conference and e-exhibition is something that a lot of the local companies should look into temporarily and not stop all of the interactions going on. And obviously, we do have a lot of assistance actually being given by the current government, some of the agencies out there. So I'm going to give an example, which is Evanesys is actually part of the digitalization grant. So if any companies out there is actually interested to, let's say, host an e-conference, there are special discounts and grants available to assist you in adopting these technologies. So it is not something to be afraid of. It's just a matter of taking that one step forward and just taking the first step to adopt technology first before we look at all of the new cool stuff out there.
Okay, great. Will, did you want to add anything? I'm just going to go into questions first.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I think
Yep.
we also have to weigh, like, what is a corporate planner trying to achieve from a virtual conference or an event or a meeting, right? And your investments would directly be a proportion to that. So, for example, if you are hosting a full-fledged conference, that could be 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 people, right? There's a lot of variables to cost in hosting an event like that. You have the venue, you have the cost for catering, you have AV, you have a lot of different costs, right? And if you're moving that event online, it is a mammoth task because you really want to make sure that the same experience is over there. So I just want to say, like, it's not always a cost that should be the determining factor. It should be depending upon the event, right? And what you want to achieve and how you want to move that. Of course, online events can still be cheaper to host and conduct than hosting a virtual event, right? No, I'm sorry, like than hosting a in-person event, right? Um, and then yet it could still drive engagement and value to planners and attendees both. So, you know, we should just move according to what we're planning to achieve and the kind of event that we're planning to host as well. And that should summarize what kind of expense you should have on technology and how much money you should spend.
All right, thanks. Eric, you unmuted yourself. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, in addition to that, I mean, obviously there's many different factors that are coming into play here, but, you know, again, as we start to see a huge increase in the number of people doing online events, the key, you know, challenge that every organization, you know, on this call and obviously not on this call as well, is going to run into is really competing with other events that are online. And really, how do you go about that process of thinking, what is special about my online event, my conference, is going to attract those other people that come to mine as opposed to somebody else's. And at the end of the day, it's the same, you know, methodology that worked, you know, when people are paying for tickets, which is content. And if you really have the content that's going to drive people, that's going to be the key thing. So, you know, people really need to consider what is that content and how much content can we pack into a particular session where, you know, if it's a corporate who's running events, you know, maybe instead of doing a full day conference, which maybe they did before, they probably need to be able to reduce that to 2 to 3 hours in order to make sure people's attention spans are able to, you know, fit within that window. Whereas the bigger challenge I think we're starting to see is really the revenue models associated with this. Because event organizers, if they're a conference organizer in the past and they were organizing 100 conferences, you know, how do they then replicate that in terms of revenue to what they are going to have today, right? You know, first, the people that they need to hire internally needs to be a completely different skill set than what they had before, because now you're producing an event online, which requires, yes, it requires an MC to host it, but what's all happening behind it? And then secondly, are we charging people? Are we putting logos as the main validator? But, you know, corporates themselves haven't necessarily shifted their budget from offline events, you know, sponsoring booths, to being able to physically understand the value of sponsoring an online webinar to the same degree and willing to pay the same amount of money that they would otherwise. So this is a challenge that I think we're going to work through, and corporates are going to have to think about over the next probably 6 months or so as this transition still takes place, before we get back to really the in-person events. And event organizers, I mean, we've seen a couple different models, people charging $5, $15 to attend in a webinar. But over time, you know, again, is that really covering the cost? Most of these organizations, if you talk about a chamber of commerce or an association, or, you know, an event organization, is even a worse situation. But, you know, associations and chambers of commerce, they were probably driving 30, 40% of their revenue strictly from events. And so now how are they going to make up that gap? Are sponsors going to make up that gap of ticket sales to the events? That's a stretch. So we need to think of new business models that really, you know, sort of continue to drive revenue, but really reshape the organizations in a way that's going to help them propel them forward in a more agile way, but at the same time is able to replicate the experience to whether the members or clients, you know, and have that mindset of, you know, where's the revenue coming from?
Yeah, I like that, Will, when you mentioned, because we do have the additional revenue streams from online events. But again, how are sponsors going to be convinced that they are in fact really getting more eyeballs online? And if they've never done any online sponsoring before, how do you explain to them that this is perhaps better or even the same as sponsoring a physical event, a physical setting. I think that's probably a challenge, as you mentioned rightly, and exhibitors, whether they are ready to go on to become an e-exhibitor. What do they need to be, to be able to do that? They've got to have a lot of nice designs, because literally it's everything visual. So there's nothing physical that they can build to show people, but it's all about design. Are they ready to do that? Yeah, Melvin, you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I have something to add. Yeah, actually, in terms of the revenue model, I think that it will be more of a digital marketing model. You see, we have
Mm,
clients who are willing to pay a lot of money for reach and cost per click. So we can actually track that, and you can work with a digital marketing agency to
mm,
actually, drive that revenue generation model. At the same time, we have websites that have been making quite a lot of money just from Google AdSense itself, to just by embedding a Google AdSense into your webinar website, people will actually get to view it, and you get to earn some extra pocket money. And I'm not talking about very little money. Like, for example, one of our websites is easily making about 5,000 over ringgit a month, yeah,
wow.
just from the Google AdSense itself. Yeah.
Mm,
So all these will actually supplement your revenue stream. But I think the other thing is that we can use we need to gamify
mm,
the app or the platform or the webinar itself. Yeah. So part of this gamification will actually make it a bit more engaging. Otherwise, after 2 hours, they may actually decide to leave the webinar. Yeah, we've hosted online courses before, and we realized that the attendance in the morning is extremely high. Then by the afternoon, it's like more than half have left the online webinar.
yeah.
So
You'll see that happening here as well later
perhaps
on.
one of the
So,
gaming,
so
yeah,
guys, you better not leave.
perhaps yeah, perhaps what one thing that we can do is that maybe throughout the session we can give, like, a redemption for products. So
Mm,
those who stay on can actually hop on and just provide their address and their name, and they can get free product redemptions from the sponsorships. So that might actually help them stay on. Or even a wheel of fortune, they click on the wheel, and then they get to interact and play with something, and they go to another virtual room. So things like that.
mm,
Maybe that can be incorporated into the future of online events.
mm.
Yeah, but I think that the future of online events has great potential, especially for the younger generation, because we were brought up playing video games. So we are technically the virtual generation.
That's actually a good way to put it, because the new generation is probably more adept at online events. You don't need to educate them much, and
That's
probably
correct.
they're going to be the next leaders of the sponsors companies coming up. And you've got a lot of startups, and these are going to be your future sponsors, exhibitors,
Yeah,
attendees. And these people are already aware, like Melvin mentioned earlier, a lot of tech geeks are already attending online events to view, the new iPhone model, or unboxing or things like that. So to them, online events are actually a norm
yeah,
already. It's just expanding it to training
I think
programs and
yeah,
millennials.
conferences.
I think millennials are very open,
Yep.
and you may see that could still be 30%, 40% of the people who are joining events and meetings, right?
Yep.
I think just
yeah,
one thing to add to what Melvin even mentioned over here in terms of gamification, right? When you said that our sponsors open to sponsor events, like to pay money for virtual events, would they be sponsors, or do they want to exhibit at a virtual event, right? I think the answer is yes, but then just something for us to understand: for the longest time, events industry has not really, like, we've had the excuse of not using technology. If it's a live event, we would have an excuse that, hey, I have an exhibitor booth, why do I need technology to drive people to the booth, or use technology to gather leads and qualify leads, right? But I think in today's day and age, if you look around, there's so much available for you to drive value to each type of people that are coming to your event, to your
Mm,
participants, to your sponsors, to your exhibitors. Everybody can get tremendous amount of value, whether it's a live event or a
mm,
virtual event. The formula remains the same. It's just that we
mm,
have to execute a little differently,
mm,
but the overall formula of that ROI still remains the same.
mm,
And now we don't have excuses, because we cannot make excuses for not using technology,
mm.
because now is a time more than ever that you need it.
Well, actually, now's a good time, because it has forced everyone to go into technology. So you don't have to spend that money to educate people. They're learning it themselves. So they're forced to learn it themselves, to meet with friends and, meeting with colleagues and stuff. Jenny, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think it's actually very interesting. Over the past couple of days, if any of the maybe audience is also well versed in Weibo, so the China app. So that is actually something quite interesting because if you are on it, you would actually be able to have access. That over the past few days, there has actually been a lot of online concerts by very renowned Taiwanese, Hong Kong stars, and
Artists.
so basically millions of people are tuning in for that few short minutes because these concerts are not basically live, so it actually takes a very minimal setup to actually host, and stars can actually combine and having duets live on screen. So all of these are actually I would say new ways to drive audiences, because the younger generation is definitely open to all of this. And if you've also seen concerts on Fortnite, it is amazing. The graphics is absolutely amazing. So all of these are the new generation tech that we as event organizers have also required to take note and basically know what is out there, because these are all the new ways to actually reach your new generation of audiences. Because then in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, the generation that grew up with the current version of Fortnite, the current version of online conference and online concerts will grow into your next generation of attendees as well.
Yes, I do agree. I fully
And that's
agree with
another
that.
chunk of revenue.
Yes, that's another stream of revenue as well. And the fact is they're used to it, so you don't have to, again, you don't have to educate them, and you just have to please them with whatever they're already used to. Now I'm gonna go into the question. Someone asked, what is your advice for new companies with little or no budgets put aside to start with technology upgrades for their business? And I think this is actually connected with the second question from Didi. Customers have the perception that event technology is expensive, especially for virtual conferences and virtual exhibitions. Like you said, Jenny, you've got these really impressive things, but you need to spend money to have that impressive outlook for your event online. So how do you convince yourself to spend that money when you want to organize or you want to invest in technology? Or if you're working with clients like ourselves, we work with association clients, how do we convince them to spend that money on technology? Eric, maybe you want to have a say in that.
Sure. So I think for any startups we're looking to obviously move into that world. I mean, first of all, technology is a necessity at this point. There is no question about it. If your company does not have any technology, you're already 3 months behind because everybody else has jumped ahead of you. But I mean, there are free tools out there. Whether you want to do some, YouTube or Facebook Live to be able to broadcast what you're doing, tools are accessible for free, and that's a start to get things going. Zoom doesn't cost that much either. It's not an expensive tool. It's like $15 to get up to 100 people on your webinars. So these are not expensive tools to get started. You just have to do it. And the biggest thing for any organization, right, is just figuring out what is going to work, create the content, and launch it. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Try it again. Right? I mean, we're in a time right now where learn, fail, improve, move on to the next thing is exactly what everybody's trying to do. And I think again, if we look 6 months out from now, innovation that's going to come out of the last 3 months it is going to be faster than anything we've seen in the past 6 years, because people are stuck at home. They've had to think. They've got time to think. They haven't been traveling, sitting in a subway for 2-3 hours a day. So people have really had the time to consider what they want to do and how they want to do it. And that extra time is going to really spur innovation at any organization out there. Technology is the key, but really you use all the free tools. It doesn't cost anything. Just go ahead and do it, try it, and fail. It's okay. Try it again.
Yeah. Jenny, did you want to add on to that?
I think that Eric has made some really good points. There are a lot of free tools out there, but I believe that event organizers such as Didi, I believe she's an exhibition organizer as well.
PCO.
Yes, exactly. So I think for those kind of industry, you would require a little bit more customization. But the thing is actually, I like to share that actually organizing an e-exhibition can be not very expensive. So if you think that maybe you actually need to pay like 100,000, that's not the case. So you actually have options even as little as 7,000, 10,000 ringgit. And then that is already something that you can look into. So it doesn't really take a lot of convincing to actually get you on board, because the cost to actually organize an e-conference and e-exhibition, you actually save a lot of money. Yes, so when it comes to logistic, when it comes to organizing your speakers' flights, your logistic, your food and accommodation, that alone, you have saved so much already on that, which you can change all of those budget for all of your basically technological adapting tools. So those are also something that to look into. At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, there are some grants out there. There are some options out there to actually assist technological advancement. And especially this year, if you have actually been in a number of webinars hosted throughout MCO period, there are a lot of grants, a lot of discounts available that is extended, which, even we as event assist, we have jumped on board. We have gotten our clients and helped them actually apply for all of these discounts as well, to assist all of this technological adoption. So it is not something as scary as a lot of people deem. It is just something that you need to really explore it with us, explore with any of us, and then you will basically find a lot of options out there available for you.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. And I do agree with Eric. There's a lot of free ones online, actually. So for those startups, new companies or small companies, you can actually just try on Zoom, and there are limitations, but for just a small amount, you can actually upgrade, and you get a really good working platform that you can host webinars or online, simple online conferences. And like what Jenny said, there are different levels of investment that you can do. You can go for the lowest one. You don't have to go on the super massive investment at the outset. So start small and then maybe try with the free ones. And everyone's trying right now, so they won't blame you if you make a mistake on webinar. How I did on the first webinar, so I made a few wrong clicks here and there. So people are all new to this, so it doesn't matter. And yeah, Melvin, you raised your hand.
Yeah, actually, that was a very good point raised by Jenny. I was having this conversation with a Singapore client just yesterday, and they were actually shocked at how cheap it was to host an online virtual event. I think we quoted them about 30 over thousand Sing dollars, and they were like, wow, for that they can get like AR and VR. It's like 1/10 of the cost of organizing an actual event, because they get to save so much on the setup, the labor, the manpower, as well as getting everybody there. So definitely virtual events are cheap. They're very, very cheap. Like what Eric mentioned, even Facebook Live can be utilized, but most people can't even get the basics right. They can't even make sure that their camera is not shaky during the entire event. So those are the small fine points that you need to fine tune first before you hop onto even bigger things. Yeah, and some people don't even know how to do split screens on Facebook Live. So there's subscription softwares out there online that you can subscribe to that will allow you to customize a rolling text function at the bottom of your Facebook Live, to have split screens or multiple speakers. So that's something that you can definitely investigate. Just for a very small sum, less than $20 a month, you can get that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people need to go on a learning curve right now. They need to learn a lot of things, and very fast. And I think there's a lot of online resource for you to learn. There's a lot of videos telling you how to this and how to that. And of course, you can always contact any of these companies here. We've got Event Assist, Event Bank, Karuna, or Cvent, if you guys need any of this assistance. Or you could contact any one of us, the PCOs, who might be able to help you to organize this. Now, the next question is from Alistair. Alistair is also my classmate, in fact. Okay, and he says that they've been involved with multiple sporting events over the last year, and the outbreak has affected their business drastically. So they're moving into esports events. Now, the challenge is to pitch events like these to clients and translating the value of online events to them. He would like to see, how do you do that, especially for esports event? Eric, did you want to start? You're nodding your head.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've seen people, sort of thinking about esports even before certainly this crisis hit. There were a lot of proposals coming around and people trying to organize more esport events. I think the question still remains is where are corporate sponsors in doing so? So if you really look at, I would say, successful esport events, they have massive sponsorship values. The revenues from those are just drastic because of the value that has come, through that. Of course, once ESPN starts broadcasting esport events, that the industry has made it, and certainly from even 4 years ago, where people really didn't know what that was. So is it happening? Yes. Do a lot of corporates have they really embraced it yet completely? Not yet. But certainly the opportunity is there to move into esports, and certainly there continues to be more so. And again, it's just going to have the same challenge like anything right now is where's the sponsorship dollars going to come from, and how are you going to generate the revenue? Yes, of course, you can charge people to pay for the online entrance fees, which is the revenue source itself. And so there's actually some good monetization there that can take place, and I think we're already seeing a huge uptick, and that was already happening before this crisis. So it's definitely an opportunity, and certainly something that people should be looking out for.
Yeah,
I would like to add. I think it's like honestly speaking, like esports, as Eric mentioned, like it's coming up. It's a budding thing. It is going to be a difficult conversation, especially with sponsors, because one thing we have to understand: overall sponsorships for anyone right now, whether it's an esporting event or it's a conference, whether you're an association or it's a fundraiser, at the current time, it is difficult to get sponsorships because a lot of companies are just restricting their budgets. They don't want to spend a lot of money, and they're being very careful about every dollar and every penny that they spend, right? So I think this is something which could be relevant to everybody seeking sponsors. I think you need to drive and translate the value and the ROI to them. Like, for example, for an esporting kind of an event, you need to go back and let them know, okay, then what's the visibility that they can get, how many views you can get. And, also if you can then go a step further in qualifying leads for your sponsors, whether it's a conference or it's a sporting event or any kind of a fundraising event, I think that's what people really care for. If you're able to qualify leads for them, and generate some interest and some hand raisers that, okay, I'm interested in this company or these products, or I'm interested in working with these people, then I think you have a formula of success. First time around, you may get people who are more like early investors and who like, yeah, I would like to try it out. But when you have some matrices that you can measure, and the next time then you go around and you talk to people and you talk on those deliverables that we did this event, and this is what we were able to generate, these many views we had, these many leads that we generated for sponsors, then you would even have more meaningful conversations with, with your sponsors and exhibitors, and then they would try and see something which is more tangible.
Jenny,
So
you wanted to
technology
add
could help with
something?
that.
I think the question that Alistair actually asked, when he asked, it would help if maybe he let us know what sort of esports is he actually talking about. Because esports is new, yes, but it's a very broad term. It's an extremely broad term that there is no proper definition of it. So when you say esports, which game are you actually talking about? Are you talking about Fortnite? Are you talking about World of Warcraft, League of Legends? There are a lot of different things. So when you say you have problem pitching the value, it would help if also you understand what esports you're actually pitching for, understand the game, understand your viewers, understand how many people are actually on the platform itself. It would also help if you have a team who actually plays the game and understands the game's core interests. That would actually help understand what value you can actually bring to your sponsors and partners too.
Oh yeah, Melvin.
I think it's about branding your event as well, because you just started, right? So the brand is still new and you haven't garnered enough trust. So what you need to do is actually to have partnerships, like Jenny said, with existing members who will actually help you promote those events, because only those players would understand the other players, how you get them. I think the other thing that you really need to look at is your segmentation when you actually do your social media marketing. like for example, Karuna does a lot of digital marketing for even for our own business. I just got like 3 leads just by sitting here and talking on online. Yeah, so I mean, you will definitely get leads, and you just need to know where to look for them and which are the right audience to target. Yeah, so you need to understand your target demographics well. So if you're targeting the wrong people, definitely you wouldn't get the attendance rate. And I would say that perhaps even for the first year, try to establish a partnership, even though it's for free, just to build up the credibility. Yeah, find a partner that can actually help you promote. So it doesn't have to be in a form of cash sponsorships. They even help you do a live broadcast or even blast it out to their member database. That's probably something that you are looking at. And I wouldn't even look at a sponsorship model for esports at the beginning, because this is your first year organizing it. I would actually look at maybe charging the participants for it. Yeah, and perhaps have some form of some form of like gift pack for the participants if they actually attend your esports event. And perhaps you can have like a few major esports artists, I don't know if you know them, to host certain talks, or even be the commenter during the event itself. I think that itself would give a lot of value. And of course, the final prize of the event, I think that has to be attractive enough to attract all these top esport players to your platform. So I think with all those combination of like how you put together your event formula, I think that would determine the success of the event. It's even at a very young stage, I think you can succeed. Yeah, it's not very difficult.
I think thanks Melvin and all the others for the answers. I think the challenges are like how I think Will mentioned earlier, that the formula is still the same. The challenges are the same. It's just moving things online, and probably the way you're convincing them. The data that you're using is now more geared towards online viewership or online attendees instead of the physical setting. So I think sponsorship or event organizing, online or offline, I think the challenges are still the same. The basic challenges are still the same. It's probably just how you're gonna target your sponsors and convince them that this online is basically good for them. As it's the same as you convincing them to sponsor your physical event setting. How are you going to convince them then? Yes, Melvin, you wanted to add something.
Actually, if your sponsors aren't willing to sponsor your e-event, you should be looking at other sponsors, because certain businesses are not, are more geared towards online promotion. Like, for example, if you approach us, to promote our services online, I think that would actually be more relevant, because our services are more online geared. Yeah, so you need to look for the right sponsors for online advertising as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really true, because there's some companies, it may not be related to your event. It may not be related to the topic of your event, esports, or if you're talking a conference about animal production, for example, that's what we did a few years back. So it doesn't mean that they need to be related to the topic. It's just that they need the eyeballs on your event, the attendees that you have online. So if they want to sell their products, if it appeals to literally everyone, they can be on as your sponsor. I do agree with that, but you need to be selective and see if they're actually keen on being an online participant as a sponsor or not. Eric, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think going back, it's really a question of where are we in this trend of moving to just online sponsorships. Forget about esports for a second. Just in general, where are corporates in that line of being willing to make that transition? I mean, Melvin, mentioned other, monetization models before, but the real dollars at the end of the day are going to come from corporates who are willing to spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on one of these events. And, I don't think I've seen the propensity of those organizations to make that transition yet. I think they're looking, but that's going to take some time before I think they really get comfortable, with that kind of money on an online event or online conference or online expo, whatever it may be. And therefore, if you're an event organizer, expo organizer, you really have to think of what is that business model that is going to allow us to generate revenue as we get through this. Because, there are ways to do it, but again, I don't think at least I haven't seen in any of the organizations that are in the markets that we deal with who've really figured out the model to replace revenue that they were running before this crisis. And nobody's there yet. Hopefully somebody will get there soon, because there's many organizations struggling right now. Of course, the biggest challenge, many event organizations and associations and chambers of commerce have had to lay off tons of people across the world. This is a complete devastation to the whole industry overall. If you look at the hotels, the Marriotts, the Hyatts, the whole industry as a whole is taking huge hits. And I think we all look forward to the day that we can get back to putting these people back in jobs and back to work, for whether it's for an event, an expo, a conference, whatever it may be. But just as long as we can get people back to their jobs.
That's true, and that doesn't apply to just virtual events or online events. Even if you're going to have a physical event, you're going to have problems right now, because a lot of people are not in great state right now. The economic situation doesn't allow for a lot of people to go sponsoring events, and the first budgets to be cut are usually marketing budgets, and to save salaries for their staff and other operational things for the factories and stuff like that. So it doesn't just apply to events or virtual events. It applies to even physical settings. So it's a tough situation right now in general for corporate sponsorship or any kind of sponsorship in that sense. And all right, I think we're about towards the end of the session. We've got one more question. Will there be a problem with over commercialization during virtual events with the need to generate more revenue from advertisements? Will participants be put off? Will organizers make participants pay extra to attend advertisement-free event, like how we have the free ad-free software, ad-free apps and stuff like that? So this is actually a real thing. And some people are just put off by things popping up, or you're trying to sell them a lot of things during your event and they get really turned off. So how do we go about that? I think there must be a balance when you're organizing online event. And again, whether the brand actually appeals to your current audience of your event itself. Any other input on that, Jenny? How about your experience on this?
I think it's a very interesting point that this attendee actually brought up. So I don't deny that that is definitely something that could happen in the future. Moving forward, with the expansion and continuous growth of virtual event, that could actually be one of the models as well for event organizers. So again, you've just highlighted and came up with a new revenue stream for yourself. So that is actually something very interesting. But at the same time, I think, yes, there has to be a balance between not bombarding the attendee with too many advertisements, too many ads. So as of right now, I think it's all about the organizer actually curating and ensuring that that does not happen. It is still a very manual process right now. Again, I think right now it's a very valid question, but at the same time, take the first step first. Take the first step and try yourself in organizing the virtual event and learn from that. You will definitely learn from that. And while you're learning, us as the tech developers, the tech team, we will also learn with you in how to enhance the platform for your attendee at the next step. So that is basically, I would say that we're definitely growing together in this industry. So by being with you, by you engaging with us, we definitely grow with you. And when you have a problem, let us know. That's where we will enhance the platform to serve your requirement.
Okay. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, Melvin, you wanted to add something.
I think it's the relevance of the ad to the audience as well. So I mean, right now, Facebook, for example, has a lot of AI algorithms. So they match, what the audience is interested in to the seller. So for example, if you go on Facebook, you don't get that irritated because half of the ads that you're actually looking for is something that you have been looking at. It's a topic that you have been exploring all this while. And I think that's one thing, the relevancy of the ad to the audience, the AI algorithm, that part will definitely help a lot. The other thing is that perhaps, in the app or on the website, you can give the option for the audience to hide the ads if they choose to do so. So giving control back to the participant, I think, that would make them happy. So I mean, you don't make that button too obvious. You can just put it somewhere under settings, so where if they're smart enough, they can figure out. They can just go under settings and turn off the advertisements or limit the advertisements. But the same kind also depends on your design of your website and your app, just to make sure that the advertisement, doesn't cover too much major real estate. If it's a small bar underneath or just a pop up for 3 seconds, I think that's good enough. I think it's the overall, curation of the entire event, like what Jenny mentioned. Yeah, it's just not one factor, one definite factor that turns people off ads. I personally like ads, and I think a lot of people out there, if you like to go window shopping, that's a form of an advertisement itself. So yeah, so I don't mind it when I'm going through an online event.
Yeah, I do
Especially
agree.
when there's a good offer.
Yeah, well, I do agree. There's some ads that I don't mind seeing, but when it gets too many, I think it's a bit too much, I guess. But I like that the visibility. So it depends on how you put it up. It doesn't have to pop up into their face every time. So it could be like a small inconspicuous, like banner at the bottom, or just like a button that they can click on and off. You can exit so they don't have to see it the whole event duration. So yeah, I like that.
It can also be a sponsored article.
Correct. So it's more
Yeah,
of
it can
an
also be a sponsored article. So it
inbound
doesn't need.
marketing. Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Okay. So we've got all the questions answered already, and we've come to the end of the session. It's 11 o'clock. We usually try to keep it at 1 hour, 45 minutes at most. And usually people start to drop off after that. So attention is not so great when you're sitting for a long time in front of your PC. And before I end, I'd just like to thank all the speakers. I'd like to also just share a screen on this upcoming event that we're gonna have. It's actually, let me just share my screen for a while. Okay. Yep. Can everyone see this? Yep. Okay. So this event is organized by the Penang Convention and Exhibition Bureau. As you can see, we have a few speakers there, and I'm going to be moderating. It's going to talk about the next normal. And of course, the focus will be for Penang, but this probably could apply to any other state. And I think it's great that they're taking this initiative to come up with this webinar and to share some ideas. They've got people from the hotel, an organizer, and definitely the Minister of Tourism, YB Yo. So I think that's going to be great. Something that's happening on Thursday. If you guys are free, you can attend this. And right, so we come to the end, and thank you everyone for all the questions that you've asked. Thank you to the attendees on Zoom and also on YouTube. I guess we'll see you again next week. Thank you to all the speakers. I think you've got really great points. For all of you who have any other questions, you can email them directly, either on their website, or you could email to us, info@placeborneo.com, and we can channel those questions directly to them. Or you can ask us on our Facebook. They also have their Facebook pages. Now with that, I thank you and have a great day ahead. And for those who are fasting, selamat berbuka puasa later on, not now. And see you again. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
See
Bye.
you.
See you all.
Bye.